Welcome to the Nature Intelligence for Business Grand Challenge Awards ceremony, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. My name is Chad Gallinat. I'm the Open Innovation Director at Conservation X Labs, and I will be your MC for today. I first want to share a sincere thank you to everyone joining us today to see the culmination of the substantial amount of work that everyone involved in this competition has performed. Um, Today, this is a significant moment. Today marks the conclusion of the formal challenge competition. But for the finalist teams with us today, it's just the beginning of their journey with small and medium-sized enterprises around the world. The work of making nature intelligence a practical, accessible tool for businesses everywhere continues well beyond the ceremony. Quick sense of how we got here. We launched this challenge in October of last year. We received more than 380 applications from innovators all around the world. We narrowed those down to 12 finalists in 8 different countries, and over the last 2 months, watched 10 of these finalist teams test their solutions with 2 small and medium enterprises each. And as you'll get a sense of later, these were real businesses with real operations, real constraints, and real nature-related dependencies. And in the next hour, we'll be naming the 3 winning innovator teams, each of whom will take home $20,000 to continue building their solutions. I want to thank everyone, the funders, the partners, advisors, the innovators, and the SME users who've each played a huge part in getting us here. And we're especially grateful to Germany's International Climate Initiative for their financial support of this competition. And of course, to our implementing partners, the Taskforce on Nature-Related Financial Disclosures, TNFD for short, and the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, for their vision, expertise, and collaboration throughout. So to kick us off, I'd like to hand things over to Tony Goldner, CEO of TNFD, for a few words of welcome. Tony, over to you.
Thanks so much, Chad, and really great to be here. It was a bit over a year ago that we sat down with Paul from Conservation X Labs and talked about this idea of running a grand challenge. And why did we do that as TNFD? Well, there's huge momentum around nature-related assessment and reporting. We now have over 750 organizations globally using the TNFD recommendations for external reporting, or at least have committed to get started on that journey. Using AI tools, we have found over 500 reports now published around the world, which is also amazing. So momentum is well underway. But of course, public reporting is just the tip of the iceberg. It's really the work that goes on behind the scenes within companies that's actually most critical, which is how do I identify, assess, and then respond to my nature-related issues? And that's a challenge every business needs to grapple with, including SMEs, many of whom are critical partners in global supply chains or local economies. And in many cases, they're at the front end of the interface with nature. They know nature well, they depend on nature, and they have impacts on nature as well. So our challenge over the last 4 years has been not only to build a set of disclosure requirements for big companies and financial institutions who may need or want to do that. They might have regulations like CSRD or anticipate forthcoming standards like ISSB. But increasingly, as they do, they're going to be asking their supply chain partners all the way back to the farm gate for information around their nature-related issues. And so we set up this challenge with CXL and UNDP really to enable and to make sure that SMEs could have those tools that they need and recognize that most SMEs don't have budget, they don't have time, and they don't have expertise to spend a lot of effort trying to figure out how nature is relevant to their business, not just their dependencies and impacts on nature, but potentially also the risks and opportunities to the future cash flows and future financial resilience of their own business. And no company wants to be suddenly knocked sideways by nature-related issues. And companies downstream who rely on their supply chain partners want to make sure that their supply chains are resilient. So we're really excited to have partnered to launch this initiative. We've really focused on trying to catalyze solutions The nature tech space has been vibrant for many years now. A lot of those solutions are emerging and now starting to go to scale, but many of them are rightly focused on servicing big companies and big financial institutions that have more sophisticated needs and also a capacity to pay for services, might be software as a service or consulting services. We really wanted to set out to build solutions that were accessible and affordable to SMEs as well. So with that, I look forward to seeing today's session and seeing the finalists, and I will hand over to Maxim for a few comments as well. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Tony, and a few words from UNDP. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone joining us from around the world. So yes, from UNDP, welcome to the award ceremony for this competition that we ran together with TNFD and Conservation X Labs. And yes, we have the winners, and this will be announced today. But I'd like to thank all those who submitted applications. There were many applications, great ideas, and the 10 finalists. It's quite obvious that there's a huge amount of commitment and thought-provoking ideas exactly on the subject that brings local economy, mid-sized economy at peace with nature, so to speak. From UNDP perspective, small and medium enterprises is the skeleton of global economy. And so they are in focus in this challenge. So with this challenge, we would like to demonstrate how to actually bring that nature aspect from the risk perspective, but also from the opportunity perspective, how to bring that into the day-to-day activities of SMEs, into their business planning. And we hope that could reconcile nature as a component in economy for the benefit of communities, for the benefit of SMEs, and for the benefit of the planet and the future generations, because we all depend on the healthy planet. In the modern world, it's quite obvious that with the rate of development of digital public infrastructure and artificial intelligence, such tools can be developed. And SMEs are at the heart of economy, but nonetheless, it is not yet where they are with respect to adopting the digital public infrastructure and artificial intelligence into nature-focused activities. So that's why we came up with the idea of that competition that could, develop system thinking for the SMEs with respect to approaching nature and provide tools, data, systems, and capacities for them to act on nature. So we're aware that several businesses, as Tony mentioned, there are several service providers and there are several platforms. And we also know several rating agencies which are out there, which are tracking biodiversity progress of companies. But in most cases, let's admit it, they do it in a pretty aggregate way with data relevant mostly, almost exclusively for big corporations and banks. And so we thought, so what about if we could come up with a mobile phone-based biodiversity risk and opportunity assessment, which is in line with the TNFD LEAP approach, and you could run it. And you could get it you could run it at minimum cost, and you could get it based on scientifically robust data, local data included, and end up with meaningful, actionable recommendations for those SMEs. And it was fantastic when we started the competition, we were basically groping in the dark, not quite imagining ourselves the wealth of ideas that is already out there. So those applications that we received show that there's lots of work, there's lots of progress, there's lots of things in the making exactly along the line of thinking that I'm talking about. So as mentioned, finalists had a chance to do face-to-face testing with real SMEs, and it was a fantastic experience, which actually developed a wealth of recommendations on how those solutions can be improved. It actually also showed that there are technical difficulties with many of the applications, with many tools. But that's exactly where those technical difficulties, that's exactly where with a little bit of investment from prize givers, like our case, those difficulties could be fixed and the whole idea could be taken forward. So the challenge will be over with the ceremony, but we are committed, and I know that TNFD and Conservation X Lab are just as committed to continue working with the finalists to make sure that There's market permeation, there's progress in this line of thinking, the solutions are improved, and they actually finally get adopted at the local level, and there's action on the side of SMEs. Today's event is an opportunity to celebrate the results on the one hand, but also to hear directly from those innovators who participated in the challenge and the SME users. So I'm pretty much looking forward to the discussion ahead and to announcing and celebrating the winners. So with that, thank you, and back to Chad.
Thank you, Maxim. Well said. Well said. So to round out our welcome remarks, we have a short pre-recorded message from Paul Bungie, co-founder and president of Conservation X Labs. Let's run the video, please.
Hi, I'm Paul Bungie, president and co-founder of Conservation X Labs. And on behalf of everyone at CXL, I'm so excited to welcome you all to the culmination of the Nature Intelligence for Business Grand Challenge. Because, in a world where the challenges that are facing ecosystems and species and nature often takes a backseat to other global headlines, it's really important that open innovation competitions such as this one shine a light on the new talent, the new interest, and the new momentum that is coming in to help put nature at the center of business activity. We're also in an era where new technologies like artificial intelligence and ubiquitous sensing, satellite communications are offering new opportunities, and they unleash new possibilities for the field of nature intelligence for business. But we believe that through the power of innovation and technology, we can make nature intelligence important for every business around the planet, not just big ones, but critically the small and medium-sized enterprises that are the backbone of the global economy. So the Nature Intelligence for Business Challenge is here to reward not just great ideas or great teams, but really amazing solutions that we actually put through their paces. Solutions that had to go to work for real SMEs all around the planet, demonstrating their capability, their scientific rigor, and their value to be used. So congratulations to all of the teams today and all of the finalists. Congratulations to everyone who was a huge part of the Nature Intelligence for Business Grand Challenge over the last many months. We hope that you've gained incredible momentum, and we hope that the opportunities and new markets that are just beginning to start will really transform the planet for you and for nature itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And thanks again to all of our partners for the institutional weight, your expertise, and of course, the networks that you've brought to this challenge. All right, so we've heard the why. Now for the what and the how. I'm excited to introduce Cassie Hoffman, our challenge manager at Conservation X Labs, who's been the driving force behind every stage of this entire competition. She's going to walk us through exactly what the challenge set out to do, how it unfolded, how we got from 380 some applications down to the 3 winners that we're going to announce later. Cassie, virtual stage is yours.
Thanks, Chad. Hello, everyone. My name's Cassie Hoffman. As Chad mentioned, I've been managing the Nature Intelligence for Business Grand Challenge, and I'm really excited to arrive at this point after what has been a rapid and intensive 7 months of work to get through the challenge timeline and competition. I am here just to give a very short level set for everyone to know what's happened the last several months, know what we were looking for, and what the teams have gone through. So just as background, we did launch the competition on October 3rd, 2025, which I said was only 7 months ago, and so much has been accomplished. And we launched this call for solutions that could help small and medium-sized enterprises understand and act on their nature dependencies, impacts, risks, and opportunities. And specifically looking for these solutions that can help SMEs overcome common challenges around the world, things like resource constraints, be them financial or time-oriented, capacity constraints, and or a lack of technical expertise specifically around environment, nature, and biodiversity. And really help them be able to both access and interpret nature assessment or intelligence and integrate it into their business strategy and operations. We had a number of criteria, but I highlight 2 critical ones, one being this design and inclusion and solution fit. And that was that we specifically wanted solutions that were designed for SMEs and met their specific needs and requirements, and had them in mind when deploying these solutions. And also were met this criterion around accuracy and reliability, being that there was sufficient scientific rigor, a sound methodology, and that it was aligned with the TNFD LEAP approach. And many of the other criteria were oriented around the team's ability to both implement and take their solution to market in a sustainable and pragmatic way. So we did cover a lot of ground in just 7 months. We launched the challenge in October, closed the application period in December, receiving 385 applications from 46 countries. We put them through a rigorous evaluation process to announce our 12 finalists that are with us today. In February 25th, we announced these 12 finalists and entered about a 10-week testing phase. And the testing phase was, as described and previewed by Tony and Maxim, really an opportunity for the teams to demonstrate both the technical performance of their solutions, but also receive user feedback, allowing SMEs to actually provide feedback on both their user experience using the solution, what was it like interfacing with it, how easy was it to use, upload data, et cetera, but also how valuable the resulting assessment was for them. That being understood that SMEs are a heterogeneous group and really have like a number of different objectives about how and why they would integrate nature intelligence into their business operations. As we mentioned, each team was matched with 2 SMEs, usually from different places around the world, conducted a preliminary nature assessment with them over the course of 8 weeks, and received this feedback. Just last week, we had the opportunity to have each of the teams present their results and talk about how they intend to incorporate the results into their future development, as well as continue to address the SME market. And that is really the journey we've been on from 385 applications to the 12 finalists announced in February. We had 10 teams actually complete the testing phase. It was an ambitious timeline, and sometimes things get in the way. And today we're excited to announce the 3 winners. So congratulations to all the finalists, and thank you for your hard work. I think we'll start with a series. We'll have a number of short videos here to introduce our finalist teams so everyone can get to know them.
If you don't have a value, the value will be 0. That's what happens. Value in nature and speaking the language that corporates normally speak is the right way. I have a background in investment banking. I worked for Goldman Sachs in London and New York. I went back to academia, ended up advising the EU on some parts of the EU Green Deal, reporting standards for biodiversity and nature, and we set up KUUA. Nature is always at least second or third after climate. There's a language missing which translates the topic and the importance towards the financial markets. So translating it to a CFO level type of language. And we set out with KUUA to tackle it exactly this. And we have, like, for example, a big German international infrastructure and machinery conglomerate that actually set out to analyze a few locations due diligence wise on climate risks. And then we convinced them to also have a look at the nature risks. Those risks we found, they were actually reinforcing themselves, but also offering an opportunity to mitigate. They're now rolling it out across their own operations and thinking about doing this for their whole supply chain. And then with the supply chain, there you go towards the SMEs.
Dunya means earth or world in more than a dozen languages spoken by 2 billion people on the planet. At Dunya Analytics, we help companies understand their relationship with nature and provide them pathways to become nature positive. We are incorporated as a public benefit corp because we're very focused on the impact. So we actually created two versions of our platform. We have like an enterprise version and we have a free version. So anybody can go and sign up for a free account and do a nature risk assessment. The things that stand out are when you're in an aha moment call with a customer where they see something that they didn't realize was there. It's typically like a shock and a fear, but then that fear turns into empowerment and turns into plans and turns into action. If we're successful, it becomes very easy for any company to bring nature into how they make decisions. Then what we've done is successfully brought nature into the economy as a thing that is recognized as having significant value.
We are not just talking of any small company or organization. We are talking about smallholder organizations, which is a special type of SME, right? I work in Factory USA to think how we create even more impact for the producers, the workers, and the fishers.
Our solution is essentially a process innovation that builds a practical, non-technical, step-by-step methodology that turns data into decisions that small businesses can act on. It combines open source environmental data with local and indigenous knowledge.
We are not creating top-down solutions, but really co-creating for the people that are implementing the programs on the ground. Small changes and small steps count for the final result. And when you have hundreds and thousands of producers acting in the same way, you get systemic change.
We don't have a nature data problem. We have a nature intelligence problem. I'm an environmental economist. I've been working with nature for the last 30 years. High quality environmental data exists, but it's fragmented, complex, and inaccessible to most businesses. Large organisations can afford the consultants and custom analysis, however the SMEs can't. So we built D4N to bridge that gap and to turn that complex data into nature intelligence for businesses so they can use it in their decision making. D4N is agnostic to nature data. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you have local data, private data, global data, you can put that into D4N. So essentially D4N is like the Excel. You open it up and you can put your own numbers in, do your own calculations to get your answer. The difference is anybody can use it anywhere in the world.
What an extraordinary set of solutions. And that's just the first group you're getting introduced to. So there'll be 2 more blocks of videos to get you to know all 10 of our finalists. Now, throughout this challenge, we've leaned heavily on a remarkable advisory group. Senior leaders across business, finance, and conservation who've helped us pressure test these solutions against real-world market needs. For our next segment, Reina Otsuka, who leads the Digital for Planet group at UNDP, will host a conversation with 2 of our advisors, Tim Christopherson, VP of Climate Action at Salesforce, and Dorothy Maseke, head of the African Natural Capital Alliance, to reflect on what we've learned and where the field of nature intelligence goes from here. Reina, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chad. And thank you so much for all of those inspiring solutions. As Chad said, that was only the first round. So let's see what's coming after our panel as well. And congratulations again to all of our finalists. And it really stands out how finalists are advancing their innovation on concrete, real needs. And we know that expectations are growing for business to better understand and act on their impacts on nature. But for many SMEs, accessing the right tools, data, and support is still a challenge. And this is where the guidance from the Corporate Advisory Group has been so important in helping and to ensure that what is being developed is not just innovative, but usable and scalable. So today we're joined by 2 distinguished leaders. themselves and advisory group members. The first panelist is Tim Christofferson, the VP for Climate Action at Salesforce, who brings deep experience working in climate and nature action and investments. Also the author of Generation Restoration, a book about restoring nature at scale. The second panelist is Dorothy Maseke. Dorothy is the head of the Africa Natural Capital Alliance, or ANCA, Secretariat and Africa Lead for Nature Finance and TNFD at FSD Africa, Portfolio Lead Sustainability, who brings valuable insights from working with financial institutions on nature finance and developing bankable projects across Africa. So welcome to this webinar. Thank you for joining us, Tim and Dorothy. So we'll just get started on questions. We have very short time. So to Tim, I'll start from you. How do you see the field of nature intelligence for business growing in the coming years? Like, what do you think needs to happen for these solutions to move from just promising ideas to something that companies are using as part of their daily operations?
Thank you, Reina, and congratulations to Conservation X Labs and UNDP and TNFD for pulling this together. It's an amazing and timely challenge. At Salesforce, we see nature as the basic infrastructure for the global economy, which it is. For the large majority of our customers, nature is material, and of course, technology solutions are important to ensure that SMEs can measure and monitor nature impacts. The AI revolution is, of course, changing everything for everybody, including for this challenge. And we hope that AI will further drive down the cost of monitoring and increase the capacity, but that will require investments and learning from all of us. So we position ourselves with our Salesforce Ventures Impact Fund. We fund, for example, startups that Silvera, as an example, was a small company like the ones on the call today. A few years ago, it's now one of the largest carbon credit rating agencies. Pano AI is a company that uses AI for early wildfire detection. So we have a portfolio of investments under our impact fund. We also co-founded Uplink, and I would suggest to anybody who submitted a solution under this challenge to sign up for Uplink. We co-founded that with the World Economic Forum and Deloitte in 2020, and there's now about 50,000 ecopreneurs signed up to Uplink. And last but not least, we run what is called the Salesforce Accelerator Agents for Impact, where we help NGOs. Fairtrade USA, for example, is one of the grantees, to ensure they use agentic AI, which is now where we're at in the AI revolution, for best available results. So this is how we see this field evolving, how we're positioning ourselves, how we hopefully also can support more ecopreneurs. And thanks again for involving me in this advisory group.
Thanks, Tim. Just a small follow-up question. How's Salesforce positioning yourself in this area? Like, how do you support the companies? You mentioned some, of course, the accelerators, but also I'm sure you have other business opportunities that you support. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more?
So many of the companies are, of course, also Salesforce customers, and many of the NGOs working in this space. There's about 60,000 NGOs that run on Salesforce. We see that many of the key challenges in supply chains can be solved with better technology, with better integrations, with larger company-wide data, and making that whole ecosystem of supplier data seamless across a wider ecosystem is a challenge that no company can fix alone. But if we bring together all these customers and the entire ecosystem of companies that have signed up for TNFD and that are now branching this out into their supply chain, I think we can make a lot of progress. So we are very focused on the collective action that is required here. And that now includes the next necessary step to make it accessible for SMEs, which is why this challenge was so timely.
Great. Thank you so much. And you mentioned ecosystem exactly that's starting to form today through this whole challenge. So we hope to keep working with you and please keep supporting our finalists. Thanks, Tim. Now I'm moving to Dorothy. So we are seeing some very good innovation, as you already saw in the first video. But SMEs still face barriers to access these different types of innovation. From your perspective, what is holding them back the most? And what are the unique challenges, especially for SMEs in Africa, where you are so prominently working in? What do they face when it comes to using nature intelligence?
Thank you. And again, I'd like to echo the comments today, just really congratulating the finalists. As an advisory member, we did see very interesting solutions, and I'll cover some of the aspects that I've seen the finalists had included. And essentially, these are challenges that SMEs are facing. And one of these is that most of the nature intelligence solutions are still designed for large corporates, for global institutions, rather than small businesses operating in real-world resource-constrained environments where things like infrastructure, technological infrastructure, internet, for example, may be a challenge. So many SMEs in Africa, the issue is not so much a lack of interest in sustainability or nature. The issue is practicality. These businesses are managing complex operational situations, supply chain disruptions, currency volatility, access to finance, access to energy. And these are more immediate, they're more immediate operational pressures. So if a nature intelligence solution is expensive, if it's technically complex, if it's difficult to integrate into their day-to-day operations, of course, then adoption becomes very difficult. I also talked around data and infrastructure, and we saw this really not just necessarily only in Africa, but we saw this even as the solution teams were presenting their solutions. But specifically in Africa, many African SMEs operate where data is fragmented. I talked about internet connectivity may not be as stable. Supply chains are also informal. And so a solution developed for a highly digitized market doesn't always translate easily into, say, a smallholder agriculture system in Kericho in Kenya, or a coastal fisheries enterprise, or a community-based forestry model in Nyeri, for example. So essentially what we're seeing is that many of the tools still speak the language of compliance rather than business value. And the aspect that really needs to be addressed is how these solutions can help SMEs access finance, enter the export market, reduce the operational risks. And then finally, as I finish, there's the issue of trust and localization. Businesses are more likely to adopt solutions that understand their local ecosystems, local realities, and local business models. So again, these are some of the things that we are seeing as we work with these SMEs.
Dorothy, thank you. Those are really great points. I especially picked up on what you said about not about compliance, but really about bringing business values. Do you have any advice to the finalist teams how they can better rise to meet these kind of challenges, or rather gaps that you might have seen during the presentation processes?
Yes, and I'm glad that as we engaged with the solution teams, some of this feedback was given, and we saw also many had also incorporated this feedback. So first, solutions need to be more practical and decision-oriented. These SMEs, and I'll talk about, for example, in Africa, they don't need highly sophisticated dashboards with tens of indicators. They just need simple, actionable insights that help answer their real business questions. Will this solution, or will my understanding of nature help me access finance? Will it improve my yields or resilience? Will it help me retain my customers? Will it help me meet export requirements? So that's key. Secondly, affordability and accessibility are critical. And we saw also this really coming out when we were seeing some of the solutions. We need more partnership models where corporates, ecosystem actors, etc. can also help subsidize access and embed these tools into existing value chains and financing relationships. One thing that excites me specifically about the solution teams is there's a lot of co-creation. There's a lot of piloting, and I think that has also been highlighted. And that really works deeply when you talk about localization and context being very important and being a big issue to consider. leader. And so the understanding of ecosystems, the understanding of informal supply chains, community realities, infrastructure challenges is really key. So technology alone is not enough. The context really, really matters.
Yeah, fully agree. Thank you so much, Dorothy. Very powerful advice. So we're already at the end of this panel. I'd love to hear more from both of you, but this is the last question. So both of you, looking ahead, we know that digital technology will continue to evolve as basically an accelerator for a lot of countries to meet their Rio Convention commitments. What's one practical action that can help all the SMEs, which constitute a very important part of the global value chain, to really start to act on nature-related dependencies? I'll pass it to Tim and then Dorothy, if you can close. So Tim, back to you.
So the many of the finalists had the feedback from testing included that the SMEs were not just asking to tell them what is at risk, but they wanted very concrete advice. What can I now do about it? And that combination of mapping the key data and then giving practicable advice, that is, I think, where the finalists can all take it forward in their business models, but also where SMEs can then hopefully learn from each other. I would hope that some of this is in a kind of open source model where we exchange information between all the SMEs, because many of the challenges will be similar for them. And platforms like Uplink, but also other platforms where SMEs and innovators can meet are really important. So learn from your peers is one of the key aspects that I would advise to the SMEs, because you're not alone. Your challenge is probably not very unique because there's many SMEs who face the same. So try to find these platforms where you can have that peer-to-peer exchange and borrow and share solutions.
Thank you so much, Tim. Dorothy,
very quickly, for me, one practical action would be to explore how these nature intelligence tools can be far more embedded within systems that SMEs already use, particularly systems as relates to finance, as relate to supply chains. So if you're able to have these solutions integrating into existing lending, procurement, or enterprise support systems, these SMEs will not have to navigate a completely different system on their own. And it's because in reality, they know what matters and what is important, but they do not necessarily wake up thinking only about biodiversity metrics. They think about cash flow. I talked about market access. So the real opportunity is to translate this nature-related dependencies into practical solutions through tools that are easy to use, that are directly linked to whatever else they're already using, that are directly linked to incentives, such as maybe better access to finance, better pricing, new markets, traceability challenges that they face. If that can address that problem, then I think we'd be at a much better place.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. So thank you both Tim and Dorothy for your really clear advice and a good sense of where the opportunities lie ahead. I'm sure everybody was really inspired by your thoughts. So if you are also like me, I think we're all looking forward to see the rest of the solutions. So let's pass it back to Chad. And thank you so much again, Tim, Dorothy. You've been really, really helpful for the whole process. Thank you.
Thank you, Reina, Tim, Dorothy. I think everyone just got a chance to see how fortunate we were and our finalists were to have such an amazing group of advisory members supporting everyone. So yeah, as Reina mentioned, now back to the finalists themselves. Let's play our next batch of finalist videos.
Nature assessment should not be the luxury of super large corporates and funds. We're working with businesses and financial institutions, and the idea is really to be end-to-end when it comes to developing a biodiversity or nature strategy, meaning that the platform can be used to quantify the business impact, the business dependency and risk on nature, but that's done in order to fuel the development of an action plan and a mitigation strategy. We worked recently with a cosmetic manufacturer. They were able to input actually their procurement data. And in a matter of days, they were able to identify actually that they had one key ingredient, which is a derivative of olive oil, that was actually super high risk, super high impact, which was actually a real surprise for the organization. They didn't really need this ingredient specifically, so they switched to a lower impact ingredient, and that kind of reduced the total impact and risk profile by 25%. So one action, real impact in a matter of days, using data can really translate into concrete and pragmatic approach that serve both the ESG department and also the business. So at the end of the day, everyone will be better off.
We try to connect finance approaches and nature indicators in analysis. It's a consulting Colombian company that is focused on innovation, finance, and environmental issues. We connect private sector financial resources to nature and climate and environmental conservation in Colombia. Most applications and approaches work separately: finance information and nature data sets information. We identified an opportunity to connect, creating new financial and environmental indicators that let you know what happened in nature or what happened in finance. If you apply a specific strategy, we're working with BBVA, which is an international bank. BBVA landed biodiversity bond 2 years ago, and they needed to identify if every activity that they can finance through that credit line impact negatively or positively strategic ecosystems in Colombia. So our solution led the BBVA to identify the risk and also opportunities.
A fully integrated solution like our solution doesn't exist, So the modules exist, but separately. Bringing all the information together in one system allows the decision making to become more efficient and practical.
We are the only African finalist in the challenge. Space Eagle came from the passion that I actually have, which is trying to use techniques from the science of astronomy to try to address challenges that communities face, especially on the African continent, looking how can we use this diverse skills, especially skills that include data science techniques in terms of solving challenges that Africans face. We're mostly focused on disaster risk intelligence, try to find ways that we could use machine learning techniques similar to what we do in astronomy, source identification using Earth observation data, and also using some remote sensing techniques. Eagle Nature Insight built on that foundation to see how we could align our approach with the TNFD framework. As Africans, one, we are finding ways that we can solve problems that face the continent, but the other thing as well is that we're able to demonstrate that on the African continent we're able to develop solutions that are also globally competitive.
All right, before we meet the last batch of finalists, there's one more stakeholder group that we really need to recognize. And frankly, they're the most important group, the companies for which this challenge was designed. As we mentioned, every solution that was showcased today was tested in real world scenarios by real SMEs. Over the roughly 2-month testing period, these SMEs shared their data, opened up their operations, scoped and ran actual nature assessments with the finalist teams, and finally gave honest and sometimes hard feedback that makes all these solutions better. The whole point of this challenge, the people we are ultimately building these tools for, are listed right here. So first of all, thank you to every single SME who participated. Without you, this competition wouldn't have been possible. Your voices, your constraints, and your realities are really kept us honest throughout this entire competition. To get a better sense of what the SMEs went through, we're going to hear directly from one of them that was involved in the testing. So that's Black Camel Energy from Nigeria, who will tell us about what the experience looked like from their side. Let's roll that video.
You see, nature intelligence It has come to a place that we don't even really need to. It is a must. All business owners must be able to interact with nature. So if you have a business, especially that has to do with nature, then you must be conversant. You must be able to interact with nature itself, understand the risk, the mitigations, the gaps, what you can do. It's something that is a must. My name is Joseph. I own Black Hammer Energy Limited. We produce furniture components. We export to Asia, Europe, and we are trying to penetrate to the American market. We are trying to build a net zero gate-free seal for all our products to make sure they are net zero compliance. And we make sure that we follow all the EUDR due diligence, the US LACIAT, we follow them throughout. I'll make sure our goods are perfect. We're trying. We are not there yet, but at least we are trying. The plantation is a 660 hectares that was ceded to us by the University of Ilorin. When we were testing their software, we now said, okay, let's use this as the project. Their platform gave a very simple interface. The only thing you just have to do is just to input the geolocation. They'll bring out the data. And if you are not really happy with the data, you can amend. You can tell them, okay, look this place. It makes it is an interactive platform and very simple. Is a platform for everyone or just limited to the West? Let's say in the US, Google Updates is different from Nigeria in Africa. Google Updates might be coming up every week in the US. It might just be like once every 6 months here in Nigeria. So if you are relying on information solely on what Google updated once in every 6 months, you might be missing some targets. So you just have to reason more with people who are in the developing countries, ask more questions, specific. Although it's going to be, you have to make it simple, but at least ask some questions, not just ordinary the geolocation. The geolocation is good. But when you ask more questions, it helps.
We'll skip right to the last group of finalist videos so you can get to know the final three finalists that we haven't seen yet. Let's roll that video instead.
Lamprint comes from the journey that started almost 20 years ago. We are born in the semi-arid region of Brazil, working with small family farmers under an IDB funded project, helping small family farmers to transition toward more sustainable climate resilient production system. What we discovered is that data was the connecting bit of farmers with the corps, with the financial institutions, the governments. What makes Lamprint unique? First of all, we are a bottom-up platform. We are born from a farmer-centric program. So always we start a farmer-centric vision. We are working on two very interesting tea projects, one in Africa and one is globally, helping farmers to transition towards regenerative agriculture, because there is a lack of confidence from the farmers to invest in regen ag. So we are creating a homogeneous matrix to help farmers transition and justify investment in regen ag. Lamprint is a purpose-driven tech company, and our mission is to value nature as the most critical, undervalued financial infrastructure of our economy.
Biodiversity data is very complex and hard to understand, and we want to make it very simple for our users to get the information they need for their businesses. My co-founder is a theoretical ecologist, and I have a background in sustainability consulting. We developed a biodiversity assessment platform, and we have a special focus on explainability and ease of use. We've added an AI chatbot to our solution, so we can get the geospatial information and all the statistics and combine with large language models. We work with a mid-sized European company with an agricultural supply chain, and they wanted to know what's the biodiversity impact of the different supplier regions. And we made a comparison of the sourcing regions for them. So they know where the nature risks are low and they know who to engage first, so their programs can have the maximum impact. SMEs, they make up a large part of the global economy. Smaller companies, they usually don't have a big sustainability team and they don't have the resources to go through the data sets and do a lot of desk research. So for us, that's a perfect use case for our solution.
Everyone within the organization become an expert ecologist. We help organizations that manage land asset portfolios to better assess the nature-related risk by providing them specifically site-level, decision-useful information. We combine satellite imageries with a very scalable way to ground truth that information across multiple sites in a standardized way to really get to a point where we can get from insights into action. We've decoupled the data interpretation aspect from the data collections. And so anyone within the organization, local maintenance operators, field staff, employees, can participate in collecting ground imagery using the Mosaic mobile application without prior training. We had this ambition 6 months ago to be able to give their personal ecologist advisor to every single SME on earth that manages land as a bit of a wild idea, and we've proven that it's like we've got the tools and we've got the platform to do it.
All right. So we've now heard from all 10 finalists that completed their SME testing. So this is the moment we've been building towards. But before I announce the winners, I just want to take a moment to thank some of the people that made the challenge possible. So to our funders at the International Climate Initiative, thank you for backing this work. To our partners at TNFD and UNDP, Tony, Catherine, Maxim, Reina, and all of the team members supporting all of this work. Thank you for your leadership, your trust, and your collaboration at every step. To our advisory group members, your guidance has shaped this challenge in ways that the audience will probably never see. To our expert evaluators, thank you for the rigor and care that you brought to a genuinely difficult task. To Map of Life, thank you for the data that you shared that contributed to making this testing really meaningful. And to the SMEs who tested these solutions, without you, none of this matters. Before we name the winners, I want to be clear about something. We had 10 remarkable finalists perform field testing through the challenge. The selection of the 3 winners reflects the design of this specific competition. It doesn't reflect the full picture of what each of these teams is really capable of. Every team here has built something real and important, and every team here will continue to be part of where this work goes next. With that, let's get to our winners. So, without further ado, the first winner is... Space Eagle Enterprises. Wow, congratulations. Congrats to Dr. Charles Takalana and the entire Space Eagle team. Space Eagles from South Africa. They're developing products for broadband connectivity and next generation Earth observation intelligence for governments, enterprises, and communities across Africa. I think we just brought Charles onto the main stage. Please join us, turn your camera on. You have a couple of minutes of remarks. I'll turn the stage over to you. I see you.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I've just gotten home from picking kids up from school, so please don't mind the noise. Yeah, so I think, for us, it's a very incredible moment. I don't think, it's about trying to make real solutions available to a lot of SMEs on the African continent. A lot of these solutions, have traditionally been built, for big enterprises. And for us, it's about making it available for those small enterprises that, do not have access to such platforms. And we're really, looking forward, into growing this into something, that can, help put Africa, in terms of that, that stage where we're able to create globally competitive solutions, and also be able to see how we can preserve nature, and also to preserve this one world that we all have, which is a beautiful planet, and ensure that, SMEs can also be part of making that possible. And yeah, really excited about this moment. And thank you to, to everyone that's been involved, Conservation X Lab, to UNDP, and all the other partners as well. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Charles. And congrats again. Really impressive work. All right, so that was our first of 3 winners. And now we're excited to reveal the second winner. Dunya Analytics. Congratulations, Dunya. Congrats to Megan Pillsbury, founder and CEO, and the entire team at Dunya. Dunya is based out of the US, and they are a platform seeking to help customers identify nature-related vulnerabilities and prioritize their investments. I'll hand the virtual mic over to Megan. I see you're onto the stage. Go ahead, turn your camera.
Well, thank you, Chad. What a great honor this is. On behalf of the whole Dunya Analytics team, I'd like to thank you, the competition hosts, our SME testers, and the army of supporters that have been with us on this journey, our advisors, mentors, our customers, our partners, and our investors. And of course, because this feels like the Oscars of TNFD, my mom and all of our moms. Every finalist in this competition is making such a great contribution to enable SMEs to play their important role in addressing the biodiversity crisis. But the fact of the matter is that nature is super complicated, and we need solutions that make it simple to act. So at Dunya Analytics, we strive to provide nature intelligence with actionable insights on demand and at an affordable price. So along with the other innovators here, we're clearing the technical roadblocks to embedding nature into business decision-making. And we are counting on corporate leaders and policymakers to be bold in driving progress. So you've heard it before, and I'll say it again, we have the tools to act. Now we need the will. Thank you again for this honor.
Thank you, Megan. Congrats again to Dunya. Awesome. All right, so we've identified 2 of our 3 winners. So without further ado, our third and final winner. Mosaic Earth. All right. Congratulations, Mosaic. So Sylvain Baker, founder and CEO of the Mosaic team. Congrats to you and the entire team. Mosaic, based out of the UK, are the developer of a platform intended to allow SMEs to collect data with their smartphones, then produce site-level ecosystem condition analysis. I see Sylvain is on our virtual stage. Pass it over to you. Congrats.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Super proud to have been part of this process. What I think this shows is like in the nature space, you've got incredible innovation. Everyone's talking about AI, but I think the place to be is applying AI to solve real world problem and linking nature to risk to SMEs and larger businesses is absolutely critical. Big congratulations to all of the other amazing innovators that were alongside us as finalists. And as Christopher mentioned, like I hope we can, after this competition, learn from each other a little bit more, like share some of the ideas and challenges that we've faced during the testing with SMEs, because I think there's a lot to improve on still and to learn. Big thank you to the jury, like the advisory group as well, but more importantly for the patience and participations of the two SMEs that we work with, Nadia at the Vanilla Trade organization in Mexico, and Stephanie and the team from EcoTree in Germany. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sylvain, and congratulations again. So congrats to all three of our winning teams, and to all the finalists. What you each build over the course of this competition is genuinely remarkable, and we're far from done celebrating you. And to Sylvain's point, we're going to do some follow-up work with all the teams to continue to support you in the short term. To close out our ceremony, I'd like to hand things back over to Cassie for a final reflection from Conservation X Labs, who will pass it over to Maxim and Tony for some closing words. Cassie, over to you.
Thank you, Chad, and thank you, or congratulations to all the winners, and a heartfelt thank you to all the finalists. Over the past couple months, I had the honor really to work with the individuals behind these solutions and the people who are putting in the time and the grit and the hard work to build something that they believe in, which is always really inspiring and the thing that I really honor in these competitions. So thank you all. I will say it's been mentioned again and again, but through this competition, looking globally, we have a very heterogeneous SME market and millions of SMEs. I do believe that we need a portfolio of solutions, and that goes beyond even the people who are online today, that there are specificity and particular areas of expertise, and we're still working to, I think, integrate a lot to translate this into meaningful action. And this is just a stop along what is a journey and still a longer effort to really make tangible change for people and the planet. And really engage businesses in both building business resilience and seeing impacts for nature resilience as well. So welcome everyone online to also stay engaged in what is a longer journey and effort to build something meaningful. Thank you.
A few words from...
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I'll turn it over to Maxim.
From UNDP, I think just as a closing remark, it's been quite a journey, and it's been quite of a discovery for me, since many of us in this room, we kind of see nature business interface through the LinkedIn community. But basically what we saw today is that there's real work out there. There are real tools, solutions, the real SMEs who are testing those. So there's life, business and nature just out there beyond LinkedIn, and that's great. That's great. The finalists, we've seen technology which is able to simplify the complexity for better access to data in a transparent way, in a traceable way, in a way that is within the supply chains, but also outside supply chains. So we see with the artificial intelligence, the opportunities that are emerging. At UNDP, as I mentioned in the beginning, we consider this to be just part of a journey, to be the beginning, and the bigger journey actually includes also the picture of bringing in SMEs within economies to work with governments, to work with local governments, and to connect economic growth with protection of nature within jurisdictions. And we are looking forward to working with the finalists, with those who got the prizes today, but not necessarily just those, but also with some of the applicants who might be having interest in some of the countries where UNDP is present and doing work on biodiversity finance. So looking forward to see this momentum leading to next phases. And I think, Tony, back over to you.
Thanks, Maxime. And as the finalists know, when they were running the risk of exceeding their time limit for their pitch, Cassie would play music. So I'm going to keep my remarks very short before Cassie turns the music on. I just want to echo congratulations to all the winners, but also all of the finalists, and I think to echo again Cassie's comments. When we initiated this process, it was really to be a catalyst and a catalyst for seeing a plethora of new innovations come forward. So I hope that that today's announcement and the leadership that Dunya and Space Eagle and Mosaic Earth are showing will inspire many others to come up with solutions. So I would really encourage all of the 380 applicants who entered this competition, keep pushing, keep sort of restlessly searching for creative solutions that meet a need of SMEs. And we look forward to seeing all of your progress. And one thing we will do in the coming weeks is we will organize a TNFD webinar where we'll give our 3 finalists a chance to show and maybe demo their tools in a bit more detail for an audience. I'm sure people are curious about how does it actually work, what's inside the box, what do I get as an output if I'm an SME. So we'll do a webinar to enable our 3 finalists to take us through what they've built and what they're looking on improving going forward. So with that, congratulations to everyone, and thanks also for everyone for staying with us during this webinar. Back to you, Chad.
Thanks, Tony. And thank you to everyone, to our partners, advisors, the SMEs who opened up their operations to us, the finalists, the 3 winning teams that we just named, and everyone for tuning in for this exciting announcement. The Nature Intelligence for Business Grand Challenge ends today, but the work that we catalyzed is just beginning. So we hope to see many of you again as this next chapter unfolds. Until then, thank you for being part of this with us. Take care. And always dare mighty things. Thank you.